The scanner readings made no sense. Captain Luke Harper stood on the bridge of the colony ship, Meridian, and stared at the data streaming across the main display. Coordinates that should have shown a thriving research base showed only silence. No signals. No power signatures. Nothing but empty space and broken rock. "Run it again," Luke said. His voice was calm, but his hands gripped the armrest of his command chair. 20 years he had been a captain. Never had he seen a research station simply vanish. Lieutenant David Cross moved his fingers across the control panel. The junior officer's face showed worry. "Same reading, sir. The station platforms are gone. There is only debris. The orbital station, the ground facilities, all gone. Whatever happened here happened long ago. Years, maybe decades." Luke stood and walked toward the view screen. Through it, a dead planet hung in the darkness. Gray, barren, no lights, no movement. Around it floated broken pieces of metal that once meant something to someone. A colony that the Hegemony Council had valued enough to build was now a graveyard. "Send down a probe," Luke commanded. "I want to know what killed this place." Behind him, Chief Engineer Maya Santos stepped forward from her station. She was a strong woman with dark hair tied back and sharp eyes that noticed everything. She had been with Luke for 10 years, and he trusted her more than he trusted most people. "Captain, I am reading something unusual on the outer sensors," Maya said. "There is a massive object in the asteroid field, 15 kilometers out. It is large, very large. Metal construction, but it is not Hegemony design. Not any design I recognize." Luke turned back to her. "Show me." The display shifted. A shape emerged from the background of space debris. It was massive, yes, but more than that, it was wrong. The angles were unfamiliar. The structure was built in a way that human minds had not designed. It was old. The metal was scarred and dented, covered in damage that spoke of violence or age or both. "What is it?" David asked. "I do not know," Maya answered. "But I want to find out." Luke made his decision. He was a practical man, not one to chase mysteries, but this was not a mystery that could be ignored. "Send a shuttle team to investigate. I want a small group. Careful approach. If anything seems wrong, pull back immediately." An hour later, Luke stood in the cargo bay watching Maya prepare her team. She had selected 3 engineers and 2 security officers. They wore the gray suits of the Meridian and carried basic tools and weapons. Maya carried a scanning device that would help them understand what they were facing. "Be smart out there," Luke told her. "Do not take risks." Maya checked her equipment one final time. "We never do, Captain." The shuttle launched from the bay and moved toward the massive object floating in the asteroid field. Luke watched it go, then returned to the bridge. He sat in his chair and waited, which was the hardest part of command. Waiting and not knowing. The communication crackled to life after 40 minutes. "Captain, we have reached the vessel." Maya's voice came through, quiet but excited. "It is massive, much larger than the Meridian. The hull is made of material I cannot identify. It is stronger than anything we have in our database. There are structures here that suggest this ship was designed to last centuries. Maybe longer. Can you get inside?" Luke asked. "We are trying now. There is a main bay door. It is sealed, but the lock mechanism is manual. We can force it open." "Captain, you need to see this. This ship is old. Very old. Older than the Hegemony records. Older than most star charts." Luke leaned forward. His instincts were screaming at him that this was important. Get inside and send back visual data. The next communication came through with images attached. The bay doors opened like the mouth of some ancient creature. Inside, The team found vast chambers filled with equipment and systems that made no sense at first glance. Some appeared to be living quarters. Others looked like research stations. But everything was covered in dust and silence. Maya's voice came through again, now with something close to awe in it. "Captain, I found something. The ship's computer systems. They are still partially active. There is data here. Written records. I can see text in an old form of standard language. This ship has a name. It belonged to someone called the Architects. Captain, I think we have found something the Council needs to know about." Back on the Meridian, Luke stood and walked toward the window that showed the vast structure floating in the darkness. His mind was working fast. The Architects. He had read fragments of that name in historical databases. A species from the far past. Myths and stories, he had thought. Ancient legends with no real proof. But here was proof. Here was a ship that had survived centuries of abandonment, that had been built with technology far beyond what the hegemony possessed. Here was a mystery that demanded answers. Luke made the first decision that would change everything. He sent a message back to the Hegemony Council. He reported the discovery. He requested instructions. And he waited for their response. The response came 3 weeks later. The Council had reviewed the data. They called the discovery interesting, but of limited practical value. They ordered Luke to catalog the vessel, document it thoroughly, and then continue the Meridian's mission of establishing new colonies. The dead ship was to be left alone. The past was not profitable. Only the future mattered to the Council. Luke read the orders twice. He understood what they meant. They wanted him to leave this place, to turn away from the greatest discovery of his career, to abandon the mystery and continue following their profitable routes to colonies that would make money for merchants and traders. He called Maya to his private quarters. "The Council has ordered us to leave," he told her when she arrived. Maya's face hardened. "They want to leave it here? That ship could teach us everything. It could advance our understanding of space travel, of engineering, of how to build things that last." "Yes," Luke said. "That is what they want to leave." Maya stood close to the window and looked out at the stars. "Captain, what if we did not leave?" Luke had not spoken this thought aloud yet, but he had been thinking it since the moment Maya discovered the ship. We would be writing our own ending. The Council would not send rescue. We would be marked as lost. Then we would be lost, Maya said simply. But we would not be abandoned here. We would not be empty. We would have purpose. We would have something worth doing. Luke looked at his chief engineer, this woman who had been loyal to him for a decade. "You understand what this means. The supplies are meant for 300 colonists. We have 43. We could survive here for years, but only if we stay focused. Only if we work." "I understand," Maya said. Luke made the second decision that would change everything. He turned off the communication systems that connected the Meridian to the hegemony. He called his crew together and told them they had two choices. They could take the other shuttles and reach a hegemony station, or they could stay and rebuild the impossible. 90% of the crew chose to stay. The Meridian became a graveyard of its own kind, but not the kind the Council expected. It became a workshop. The ship that was to be abandoned became the anchor point for the greatest project humanity would ever undertake. The ship in the asteroid field was about to be reborn. 5 years had passed since the Meridian crew made their choice to stay. The asteroid where the alien ship rested had become a city of activity. The crew had constructed platforms and workstations around the massive vessel. They had built habitats from salvaged materials. They had grown crops in hydroponic gardens, powered by energy that the ship itself provided. Every day was work. Every night was rest. There was no complaint because everyone understood the stakes. Maya Santos stood inside the main engine chamber of the alien vessel and ran her fingers across metal that was smoother than anything human technology could produce. Around her, engineers worked on a system that had been dead for centuries. This chamber was the heart of the ship. Whatever had created this vessel had poured incredible knowledge into its construction. How much longer? Asked Robert Kim, one of her senior engineers. He was young, maybe 30, and he had proven himself to be brilliant in understanding alien systems. 1 more week, Maya said. Maybe less. The primary power core is coming online. Once we get that stable, we can begin the secondary systems. The truth was that they were doing something that should have been impossible. They were rebuilding a ship from the ground up with minimal resources and people who were learning as they went. Every system they encountered was a puzzle. Every problem required innovation. There were no instruction manuals, no spare parts factories, no support from the hegemony. But they had determination. They had no other choice. They had burned their bridges behind them. The hegemony would not send rescue. If they failed, they died in this asteroid field far from home. Captain Luke Harper visited the engine chamber weekly. He understood that he could not help with the technical work, but his presence meant something. The crew knew their captain believed in what they were doing. Report, Luke said as he approached Maya. Power core will be active within a week, Maya said. Once that happens, we can start running diagnostic tests on the primary systems. The ship has been silent for too long. We do not know if there is any damage we cannot see yet. Luke nodded. He had spent the last 5 years reading every fragment of data they could extract from the ship's ancient computers. Dr. Patricia Wong, the colony's chief scientist, had been working with him. Together they had translated enough to understand something critical about what they had found. Dr. Wong wants to brief the senior staff tonight, Luke said. She has found something about the original builders. Something that changes how we should understand this ship. That night, the senior crew gathered in the common area. Maya, Robert, David Cross, and 15 others who held positions of responsibility. Dr. Wong stood with a data tablet in her hands. She was old, maybe 60, with gray hair and eyes that had seen much. She had been the scientist on the original colony mission, and she was the one person on the crew whose knowledge of languages and history was deep enough to understand the architects. I have been translating the ship's logs, Patricia began. The data was corrupted and much is missing, but I have found enough. This ship was built by a species the architects called themselves. They were explorers and builders. They did not construct weapons. They built tools. This vessel was designed to do one thing above all others: to preserve, to protect, to survive. She paused and looked at each face in the room. The architects are extinct, Patricia said. They disappeared from the galaxy approximately 15,000 years ago. The logs indicate that an extinction event struck their entire civilization. It happened quickly. This ship was their attempt to leave a legacy, a tool that would survive them, a vessel that could help any species that inherited it. They filled it with knowledge. They designed it to be maintained, to be upgraded, to work with species that would come after them. Maya felt something shift in her understanding. They were not salvaging a piece of ancient junk. They were awakening a gift from a dead civilization, a gift meant to last forever. The ship has self-repair systems designed into its foundation, Patricia continued. The architects built redundancy into redundancy. It should be possible to restore it to full function, but it will require resources. It will require time. And it will require human ingenuity because some of the systems are damaged beyond what the original builders could have predicted. But the core structure is sound. The primary systems are intact. This ship can be made operational. Robert Kim raised his hand. How long would it take? Full restoration? Patricia looked at Maya. The engineer shrugged. Years. 7. Maybe 10. Depends on what breaks when we bring it fully online. But yes, it can be done. The room was quiet. 7 to 10 years. They had supplies for that. But it would be close. There would be no room for failure. No room for accidents. No room for anything other than perfect execution. We do this, Luke said simply. We do this or we die here having done nothing. The architects built this ship to last forever. Humanity will prove worthy of that gift. The work that followed was brutal and beautiful in equal measure. The crew developed new methods for restoring alien systems. They combined human engineering knowledge with architect principles. They faced problems that had no solutions until they invented them. Maya began to spend more time inside the ship than outside it. She developed a language with the architect systems, learning to read their designs through patterns and logic. She found that when she stopped thinking like a human engineer and started thinking like a builder who wanted to create forever, the systems began to make sense. Robert discovered something remarkable. The ship could self-repair minor damage if its primary systems were functional. The architects had programmed it to heal itself like a living thing. Once the crew got the core power activated, the ship began to repair itself slowly at first, then with increasing speed. 3 years into the restoration, something unexpected happened. A hegemony survey ship passed through the system on a routine patrol. It found the Meridian, detected the massive alien vessel, and sent a query. Luke had to make a choice. He could respond and be found. He could hide. He chose to hide. The survey ship scanned the asteroid field, found nothing but debris, and moved on. Luke had made sure the ship and all their work appeared as nothing more than salvage operations on a dead colony. The hegemony was not looking for them. Why would they be? The Meridian had been lost years ago. By year 7, the ship was beginning to wake up. Lights came on in sections that had been dark for centuries. Systems hummed to life. The ancient vessel was remembering what it was. Maya stood in the main control room and watched displays light up with data. She was standing in a place built by a species dead for 15,000 years, and it was responding to her touch, to her team's work, to their dedication. The architects had built this ship to be found, to be used, to be brought back. She sent a message to Captain Harper. The Pathfinder is alive. She is ready for testing. They had chosen the name together. The Pathfinder. The ship that would find the way forward. Luke Harper stood on the bridge of what was no longer the Meridian salvage project, but a new vessel ready for its second life. He looked at his crew, these humans who had chosen to build instead of abandon, who had chosen to create instead of retreat. They had been discarded by the galaxy. They had remade themselves into something more. The galaxy did not know they existed yet, but it would. The Pathfinder was about to change everything. 15 years after Luke Harper had severed communication with the hegemony, the galaxy was burning. The first reports came to Captain Harper through intercepted signals. A new species had emerged from deep space. They called themselves the Vex. They were not interested in trade or communication or peaceful expansion. They came to consume. The first Vex strike destroyed the entire colonial system of Kessler. 7. 3 million people died in a single day. The Hegemony Council convened emergency sessions. They declared it an isolated incident. They sent battle fleets to investigate. Those fleets never returned. By the second year of Vex expansion, 7 star systems had fallen. By the 4th year, the number reached 20. The hegemony was struggling. Their military forces, designed for managing peaceful colonies and crushing small rebellions, were not built for a species that attacked without negotiation, that showed no fear, that consumed everything. The Pathfinder, hidden in its remote asteroid field, monitored the signals. Dr. Patricia Wong watched the data come in and said nothing. Captain Harper read the reports and understood what was happening. The galaxy was going to be conquered, and no one had the strength to stop it. Maya Santos, who spent most of her time merged with the ship systems now, could feel the tension through every circuit. She had become something more than human. Her consciousness integrated with the Pathfinder in ways that neither she nor the ship had anticipated. She could feel the ship's desire to help. She could feel the weight of their isolation. "They are dying," Maya said to Luke during one of their communications. "Billions of people are dying, and we have the power to help them." Luke stood in the command center of the Pathfinder and stared at the tactical displays. "We are ghosts. If we reveal ourselves, everything changes. The hegemony will try to control us. They will use this ship as a weapon, and when they are done with it, they will destroy it to ensure no one else can have it." "People are dying," Maya repeated. "Yes," Luke said. He did not deny it. He would not insult her or himself by pretending this was anything other than what it was. Robert Kim, who had become the lead tactical officer aboard the Pathfinder, stood nearby. "We could engage them. The ship is ready. We have weapons the Vex have never encountered. We could turn the tide." Luke looked at his officers. These people had given up everything for the Pathfinder. They had devoted 15 years to building something that was designed to protect, to preserve, to help. And now they were asking him if they should hide while the galaxy fell. "Get me a direct signal to the Hegemony Council," Luke said. "It is time." The message was short. "This is Captain Luke Harper of the Pathfinder. We are a human military vessel. The colony ship Meridian did not disappear. We chose to remain in this sector and restore an ancient ship to operational status. We are now offering our assistance against the Vex." The response came back quickly. Confusion. Demands for verification. Questions about how a lost colony ship had become a military vessel. The council did not believe him until Luke transmitted the technical specifications of the Pathfinder's weapon systems. Then they believed. 40-8 hours later, the Pathfinder received coordinates for a Vex fleet that was preparing to assault the colony world of Haven Station. 3 million people lived on that world. The Vex fleet was composed of 15 massive warships and hundreds of smaller combat vessels. Luke brought the Pathfinder out of hiding. The jump drive activated, bending space around the ancient ship, and suddenly it was above Haven Station. The Vex commanders received their first warning 3 seconds before the Pathfinder unleashed weapons. They had never imagined the Architect ship was not designed to fight like the Hegemony's military vessels. It did not rely on overwhelming firepower or massive missiles. It was built on principles of precision and adaptation. Weapons that could adjust to any enemy. Shields that learned from each attack. An artificial intelligence that had been reborn through human determination and was now fully awake. The first Vex warship died in 30 seconds. It did not explode. It simply ceased to function. Every system failed at once. The second lasted longer because the Pathfinder paused to gather tactical data on the enemy's defenses. By the third, Robert Kim had identified the weak point in the Vex shield system, and Luke knew how to exploit it. But the Vex were not simple prey. They adapted faster than the Hegemony forces had. They learned. They adjusted their tactics. The battle raged for 6 hours as the Pathfinder danced between enemy fire and struck surgical blows. The Vex fleet began to understand that they were facing something truly different. Maya felt every hit. She felt every system strain. She felt the weight of the fight as if the ship's struggle was her own struggle. Because it was. Her consciousness was no longer separate from the Pathfinder. She was the ship. The ship was her. There was no boundary between them anymore. When the Vex commander finally ordered a retreat, the Pathfinder's weapons were still functioning. Only 3 human crew members had died. Not from enemy fire, but from the strain of maintaining the ship's systems at maximum capacity for so long. They had burned themselves out. They had given their lives to the ship just as the architect designers had intended. Luke held a memorial service for the dead. He spoke about sacrifice. He spoke about choice. He spoke about what it meant to stand against the darkness. Around him, his crew mourned and celebrated at the same time. They had proven something in that battle. They had proven that the Pathfinder was real. That they were real. That humanity had not abandoned this ship alone in the asteroid field. That humanity could take the ruins of a dead civilization and make something worthy of it. But the victory came with a cost beyond the 3 dead crew members. The Hegemony Council now knew the Pathfinder existed. The military wanted to seize it. The politicians wanted to control it. Some whispered about destroying it before anyone else could have it. Orders came down through military channels. The Pathfinder was to report to the nearest Hegemony outpost for official inspection and integration into the military command. Structure. Luke read the orders and laughed. They had revealed themselves to save a colony. Now the Hegemony wanted to own what they had built. We have a choice, Luke told his crew. We can submit to the Council and become their tool. Or we can continue what we started. We can be more than just a weapon. We can be the shield that the galaxy needs. The crew voted. 98% chose to continue fighting. Maya spoke from the ship's systems. The Pathfinder accepts its purpose. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. We will stand against the darkness. And we will never return to being anyone's property. The Hegemony Council received Luke Harper's refusal. They declared the Pathfinder a rogue vessel. They sent 3 fleets to capture it. The Pathfinder simply jumped away into the deeper regions of space, where the Vex were gathering strength for their next assault. Captain Harper had decided. They would defend the galaxy not because the Council commanded it, but because it was right. Because some things were worth fighting for. Because the architects had built this ship to last forever, and now humanity would ensure it did. The galaxy was about to discover what it meant to have the Pathfinder as an ally. The war with the Vex continued for 2 years without resolution. The Pathfinder won every battle it fought, but the Vex were not trying to defeat the human ship. They were trying to survive it. They were learning how Luke Harper and his crew operated. They were adapting, and they were winning the greater war. The Hegemony lost territory at an accelerating rate. Entire star systems fell. Billions of people died. The Council fractured into competing factions. Some wanted to make peace with the Vex. Some wanted to surrender territory and retreat to core worlds they could defend. Some wanted to seize the Pathfinder by any means necessary and use it as a toolless weapon to destroy the Vex completely. Luke Harper received communications from 3 different Hegemony military commanders offering him everything if he would just accept their authority and use the Pathfinder to end the war. He refused them all. He'd left the Hegemony behind years ago. He would not bow to them now, even if they offered him the entire galaxy. But the pressure was building. The Council sent diplomatic envoys to negotiate. The military sent ships to shadow the Pathfinder. Some crews attempted to approach and board, though Luke never gave them that opportunity. Political factions leaked information to the public, trying to force Luke's hand by making the population demand his service. Maya felt the weight of all this conflict through her connection with the Pathfinder. She existed in a strange state now, not alive in the traditional sense, but not quite machine either. She could feel the ship's weapons. She could see through its sensors. She could think faster and clearer than she ever had as a human. She could also feel the weight of every death the ship had caused, every Vex vessel they had destroyed. Every life ended in the name of survival. The hegemony is falling apart, Patricia Wong reported to Luke during a strategy meeting. The old scientist had aged more in the last 2 years than she had in the previous 10. The strain of the war was showing on everyone. Their military structure is breaking down. Internal conflicts are consuming their attention. The Vex are taking advantage of the chaos. Robert Kim pulled up tactical displays. The Vex are consolidating their gains. They are building a massive invasion force for one final assault. They plan to strike at the hegemony's core worlds simultaneously. 3 strikes on 3 different systems. The hegemony cannot defend them all. They will fall. Luke looked at the displays. He had studied strategy and tactics his entire military career. He understood what was happening. The Vex were preparing to eliminate the hegemony as a power. Once that was done, humanity would be next. The Vex saw the Pathfinder as their primary threat. They would focus all their strength on destroying it. How long until they launched the assault? Luke asked. 6 weeks, Robert said. Maybe less. Luke stood and walked to the command deck window. Through it, he could see stars and the vast emptiness of space. Somewhere in that darkness, the Vex fleet was gathering. Somewhere out there, his crew's final test was approaching. A message came through the communication system. It was the voice of Supreme Commander Patricia Mills, the highest-ranking military officer in the hegemony still loyal to the Council. Captain Harper, the voice said, I am issuing a direct order. You are to report to Hegemony Station Prime immediately and place your vessel under my command. This is not a request. This is a military order from your superior officer. Luke did not respond. There was no point. He had already made his choice years ago. The next communication came 48 hours later. It was a different voice. Council Chairman Adrian Sterling. Captain Harper, I am extending an offer. Acknowledge hegemony authority over the Pathfinder, and I will ensure you and your crew receive full recognition, resources, and legal protection. You will be given the rank of Fleet Admiral. You will have authority over all human military assets in this sector. All we ask is that you work with us, not against us. Luke listened to the entire message. Adrian Sterling was a smart man. He understood that force would not work. The Pathfinder could outrun any hegemony vessel. The hegemony could not capture it. But if they offered enough, perhaps Luke would return voluntarily. He sent a response. The Pathfinder is not property of the hegemony. We fight for the people of the galaxy, not for your council. If you wish our assistance, learn to ask instead of demand. But know that we will fight regardless of whether you acknowledge us or not. The response came back within an hour. It was a declaration of war. The hegemony was now openly hostile to the Pathfinder. The Council viewed the ship as a threat to their authority. They released information to the public, claiming that Luke Harper had stolen hegemony property and was using it for his own purposes. They painted him as a rogue commander, and the Pathfinder as a threat to galactic security thought it did not matter. Most of the galaxy was too busy fighting the Vex to care about political maneuvering by a council that was losing power. Some planets saw the Pathfinder as salvation. Others saw it as a tool they wished they could control. And then something unexpected happened. Team of scientists and engineers from 3 different species requested asylum aboard the Pathfinder. They had heard about the architect technology. They wanted to help with the restoration and weaponization of the systems. Luke accepted them. Over the next weeks, 12 alien specialists joined the human crew. They brought knowledge from their own civilizations. They brought ideas for how to unlock more of the Pathfinder's hidden systems. Robert Kim worked with a Krell engineer named Saw to develop new targeting algorithms. A Corvan scientist named Dr. Vell discovered that the ship's main reactor could be overclocked. beyond safe parameters to provide massive power surges. A human named Gregory Wallace realized that the ship's defensive systems could be modified to generate a shield strong enough to protect nearby vessels. The Pathfinder was transforming. It was becoming not just a ship, but an arsenal, a flying fortress, a technological masterpiece that combined human innovation with architect design and alien creativity. Luke understood what was happening. They were preparing for something massive. The ship and the crew were becoming one unified tool designed for a single purpose: to stand against the darkness, to refuse to surrender, to prove that even a small group of determined beings could hold back the tide. Maya's voice came through the communication system. It was different now, layered with harmonics that no human could naturally produce. She had merged further with the ship. Her humanity was becoming harder to find beneath the layers of machine consciousness. "Captain, I need to tell you something," Maya said. "I can feel the Vex. I can sense their fleet moving toward the core worlds. They are bringing everything. This will be the battle that decides the war. If we do not stop them here, the galaxy falls. Everyone dies. Everything ends." Luke stood quietly. He had known this was coming. He had always known. "Then we will stop them," Luke said. "We will stand at the gate, and we will not let them pass. That is what the architects built this ship to do. That is what we have been building toward." He opened a channel to the entire crew, human and alien alike, men and women who had chosen to be part of something greater than themselves. "In 3 weeks, we will face the Vex invasion force," Luke said. "They will bring weapons and numbers. We will bring the Pathfinder. We will bring our will. We will bring the determination that comes from having nothing left to lose except each other. This is what we have been building for. This is what the architects trusted we would become. We will not fail." The crew heard his words and prepared. The Pathfinder hummed with power as every system came online. The arsenal that humanity and alien allies had created together was ready for its ultimate test. The darkness was coming, but so was the light, and the light was ready to burn. The Vex invasion came like a storm without warning. 17 massive warships and 400 smaller combat vessels jumped into the core system simultaneously. It was the largest military operation the Vex had ever attempted. They were done testing the hegemony. They were done learning about human tactics. This was the strike that would crush all resistance and claim the galaxy as theirs. The hegemony's fleets moved to intercept. They had positioned their forces as well as they could given the resources available. But they were not prepared for the scale of the attack, not prepared for the strength of the enemy. Within hours, 3 hegemony battle formations were destroyed. The Vex pressed forward, moving toward the inhabited systems, moving toward conquest. The Pathfinder received the distress signals. Every station was broadcasting desperate requests for help. Every world was screaming into the void, hoping something would hear them. Luke Harper was listening. The jump drive activated. The Pathfinder bent space and appeared above the primary invasion point. Not to defend a specific colony or star system. To stand in the path of the Vex and refuse to let them pass. Robert Kim had the targeting systems locked. Maya merged her consciousness fully with the ship's combat protocols. The alien specialists worked in coordinated teams, managing systems that human minds alone could never have comprehended. The crew that had been built by choice, that had endured years of exile and isolation, was ready. The first exchange of fire changed everything. The Vex commanders had expected a powerful human vessel. They had faced the Pathfinder before. They knew its weapons, its tactics, its limitations. But something had changed. The ship was moving faster. Its weapons were more precise. Its defensive systems were adapting to their attacks in real time. What the Vex did not understand was that the Pathfinder was not just a ship anymore. It was a living weapon, a fusion of human determination, an architect engineering, and alien intelligence. Maya was not giving orders to the ship. She was the ship. Every movement was her will. Every decision was her thought. She had become what the architects had designed her to become. A bridge between species. A tool of protection. The battle raged for 16 hours without pause. Vex vessels fell. Not all of them. The Vex were strong and skilled. They learned from every mistake and adapted. But they could not match the Pathfinder. They could not match what humanity and their allies had created. During the 14th hour, Captain Harper suffered critical injuries. Shrapnel from an enemy hit penetrated the bridge. Luke Harper fell, his body broken and bleeding. Medical personnel rushed to save him, but everyone could see the truth. The captain was dying. With his last conscious moment, Luke Harper gave one final order. Do not stop. Do not yield. The Pathfinder continues. That is all that matters. Those were his last words as a fully human being. The crew fought harder. The aliens fought harder. The Pathfinder transformed its entire being into a tool of destruction. If the Vex wanted to pass through this system, they would have to go through what Luke Harper and his crew had created. And they could not stop by hour 16. The Vex were retreating. Their invasion force was broken. 17% of their combat power was destroyed. The remainder was fleeing back toward deep space, desperate to escape the Pathfinder's weapons. The battle was won, but the cost was severe. Luke Harper was in critical condition. 12 crew members were dead. 23 more were seriously wounded. The Pathfinder systems were pushed beyond safe parameters. Damage reports showed failures in multiple major systems. And then something miraculous happened. The Pathfinder's internal repair systems activated. The ship began healing itself. But more than that, it began healing its crew. Automated medical systems activated with capabilities the crew had never fully understood. Systems the architects had built for situations exactly like this. One by one, the wounded stabilized. The dying returned from the edge of darkness. Luke Harper survived. He spent 3 months recovering. When he finally returned to the command deck, his body was still healing. He would bear scars for the rest of his life. But he would live. Maya did not return to human form. She had transcended that existence. She communicated through the ship's systems now, her consciousness distributed throughout the Pathfinder's networks. She was alive, but not in any way that matched human definitions. The crew accepted this. Some were saddened by what their friend had lost. Others understood that she had chosen sacrifice and transformation for the greater good. The Pathfinder was no longer a hidden ghost ship. Every faction in the galaxy now knew what had happened. Humanity, working alone with an ancient alien technology, had stood against the Vex and won. The message was clear. Humanity had power. Humanity had determination. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The Hegemony Council fractured over the next weeks. Some members were removed by popular demand. Others stepped down. A new government emerged that was forced to recognize human authority and human power. The Pathfinder became an official military asset, but not controlled by the Council. Independent, autonomous, free to choose where and when to fight. Dr. Patricia Wong spent the next year documenting the entire history of the Pathfinder. The discovery, the restoration, the battles, the transformation. She wrote about the architects and what humanity had learned from them. Her work became a text studied by scientists across the galaxy. It changed how species understood technology, power, and what it meant to create something that lasted forever. Robert Kim continued as tactical commander of the Pathfinder. His strategies had evolved beyond standard military doctrine. He understood now that the ship was not a tool to be commanded, but a partner to be coordinated with. He worked with the alien specialists to develop new systems and new capabilities. The Pathfinder continued to evolve. The Vex never returned to human space. They had learned something that terrified them. They had encountered a species that had taken the broken ruins of a civilization and made it legendary. A species that refused to surrender. That fought not because they had power, but because they had purpose. The Vex, for all their strength, could not understand that kind of determination. So they focused their expansion elsewhere, toward civilizations that might be easier to conquer. 3 years after the final battle, the Pathfinder was anchored at a neutral station that had been established between the human systems and the territories of allied species. The crew maintained it with care and pride. It was not perfect. It never would be. The architects had made a ship designed to last forever. Humans had proven they could make it do exactly that. Luke Harper stood on the observation deck and looked at the stars. His body still hurt. His wounds were still healing. But he was alive. His crew was alive. Humanity had proven something to the galaxy that could never be taken back. When the galaxy abandoned a broken ship, humanity found it. When empires wrote them off as lost, they rewrote their own story. When the impossible faced them, they did not kneel. They built. They fought. They endured. The Pathfinder had been a tomb waiting to be filled with ghosts. Instead, it had become a beacon, a symbol of what happened when intelligent beings refused to accept defeat, when they took ruins and made them legendary, when they chose sacrifice and determination over surrender. Maya Santos spoke from the ship systems one final time to her captain, not as a subordinate or a crew member, but as a partner in creation. "We did it, Luke," she said. Her voice carried harmonics that spanned the entire electromagnetic spectrum. The architects built a ship to survive forever. We proved they were right. We proved that with enough will, with enough determination, anything can be rebuilt. Everything can be remade. Luke Harper smiled and placed his hand on the cold metal of the bulkhead. "Yes, we did. Welcome home, Maya. Welcome home, Pathfinder. You are finally home." The ship hummed with power and purpose. In the darkness of space, surrounded by stars, the Pathfinder waited for its next call. Ready to protect. Ready to defend. Ready to prove once more that humanity was capable of greatness. The galaxy had abandoned them, but humanity had remade the abandoned into legend. And that legend would shine forever.